Hello and welcome to today's Food Ingredients First hosted webinar. I'm Elizabeth Green and I'll be moderating the webinar from Eurial today. I'm the Deputy Editor of CNS Media, which is the publisher of the World of Food Ingredients First and Nutrition Insight. We are also the sister company of Innova Market Insights. Before we get started with the webinar, I'd like to let our listeners know that you can submit any questions you wish to be answered through the Q&A engagement tool. Any questions that we don't have time to respond to during today's session can be answered via email following the presentation. The webinar will also be available on demand on foodingredientsfirst.com. A link to view the on-demand webinar will be emailed to you after the presentation. Today's webinar is presented by Eurial and is entitled Dairy Proteins, the Key to Clean Label. Clean label goes beyond the substitution of artificial additives or the removal of controversial ingredients. It's also about offering transparency and authenticity in order to reassure consumers and win their trust. Today, Europe's clean label market is booming with increasing numbers of new product launches carrying the claim. To get to the heart of the matter, it's important to raise some key questions. Questions asked frequently around clean label are, what is clean label and what does it mean to consumers? What does a product need to qualify as clean label and what solutions can be used to achieve it? In the webinar today, Eurial will explore and share insights on the answers to all of these industry concerns. Eurial understands the challenges and opportunities facing manufacturers today. By listening to the webinar, you can find out more about the company's dairy protein solutions and how they meet clean label standards. There are three speakers hosting the webinar today. Firstly, let me introduce Anne-Charlotte de Geyer, Innovation and Marketing Manager at Eurial. Anne-Charlotte is a key player in the setup of a new business area for Eurial, which develops ingredients as well as meeting the needs of the growing flexitarian and clean label markets. Anne-Charlotte joined Eurial in 2019. Previously, she helped drive innovation in a range of roles in the food and nutrition sectors. She holds an MSc in Marketing, Management and Finance, as well as a degree in Nutraceutical Engineering, and is also specialized in plant-based ingredients. Our next speaker from Eurial is Pauline Legoa, Application Development Manager at the company. Pauline has 20 years experience in the global dairy industry. Her areas of knowledge include MPD, product management, project management, and B2B marketing. Pauline heads up the Eurial application team, which supports the food industry with innovative, healthy, and natural product solutions with a focus on beverages, yogurts, and desserts. Her team also develops solutions for nutritional applications, helping manufacturers develop natural, healthy, and high-quality products. Lastly, our third speaker today is Mirta de Bicala, a market analyst from Innova Market Insights. Mirta is specialized in data analysis, health communication, and innovation. At Innova, she uses her knowledge and analytical skills to provide Innova's customers the insights they need to succeed. Firstly, I will hand over to Mirta, who will be presenting some slides on clean label from Innova Market Insights. Mirta, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to start today's presentation with some key market insights identified by me and my analyst colleagues at Innova Market Insights on the topic of clean label, which clearly moves from trend to norm within different food and beverage segments. So how did this really happen? Well, the clean label trend is very much consumer-driven. The consumer lifestyle trend toward cleaner living is broadening and heightening expectations around what constitutes a clean label. So consumer expectations, they will also vary according to individual attitudes, beliefs, and also priorities in relation to healthy eating, ethics, and sustainability. In one of our consumer surveys that we conducted in 2019, we asked our consumers about their perception of clean label. And we saw that 30% of global consumers said that they consider a food or beverage to be clean label when they have no additives or preservatives. 24% of global consumers chose no artificial colors or flavors, and 23% of global consumers chose organic. So these are really all aspects falling under consumers' definition of clean label. And this definition has expanded over time. As illustrated on the right, Innova Market Insights has been on top of the clean label trend, tracking the evolution of different aspects of the movement. And the shift we are seeing in food and beverages is from a focus on mainly health-driven factors with natural, no additives, nothing artificial, and organic as key claims on pack, to clean label also including ethical and environmental factors over time. So we see claims related to human and animal welfare, increased focus on supply chain transparency, plant-powered nutrition, as well as sustainable sourcing. So while we see the clean label trend evolving, clean label remains a major driver in the food and beverage industry. And using the Innova database, which tracks new food and beverage launches in over 90 countries, we have tracked a 1 in 3% share of global food and beverage launches in 2019, featuring one or more of the selected clean label claims. So we selected natural, organic, GMO-free, no additives or preservatives, or no added sugar as the selected clean label claims in the database. And these clean label claims are applied across many market categories, particularly in dairy, bakery, sauce and seasonings, baby and toddler products, soft drinks, and snacks, which are the top market categories for clean label claims in 2019. And clean label definitely is a global trend, but we do see some regional differences in terms of product launch activity. For example, we see that half of Australasia's food and beverage launches carry at least one of our selected clean label claims. In comparison, we see that 19% of food and beverage launched with a clean label claims is in Asia. So a lot of regional differences, but it definitely is a global trend. Now, let's take a look at some product examples. It's always great to see how trends translate to the market by, for instance, looking at different clean label markers used on pack. And we illustrated this by looking at the fastest growing market categories tracked with a clean label claim. So we have sports nutrition, baby and toddler products, and dairy. And within sports nutrition launches, this high protein milkshake from Kinetica has a clear high protein positioning and no added sugar as one of the front of pack claims. And they also mention that every single batch of product is tested externally and then undergoes quality control processes in the Kinetica manufacturing plant. They also say, back of pack, that this is to ensure that the protein, flavor, color, texture, and microbiological organisms are drug-screened to meet the standards to ensure a safe and dependable sports nutrition range. Definitely a clean label positioning here. Within baby and toddler product launches, we can see that Hero is very invested in offering clean label products. I mean, if you look at the ingredient list of this yogurt pouch, it is short and includes ingredients that are easy to recognize and to understand. We have yogurt, applesauce, strawberry, and rice flour. And the key front of pack claim is made with 100% organic ingredients and nothing more. Within dairy launches, Valio recently launched a yogurt product that explicitly states clean label on the packaging, and also a very short ingredient list including only 5 ingredients. So where do we see opportunity for clean label innovation? Although the market for plant-based proteins is currently highly dynamic and continuing to diversify, demand for dairy proteins is not at risk of collapsing. And when we look at global food and beverage launches with dairy proteins from 2015 to 2019, we see a rise in products with a clean label claim. The market penetration of clean label claims on food and beverage with dairy proteins has grown with 7 percentage points over 5 years' time. The sports nutrition sector, in particular, values dairy proteins for their high degree of efficacy when it comes to post-exercise recovery and muscle building. And for committed athletes, it's the results that count, and dairy delivers. And also for the mainstream consumer, we see more cross-category launches on the market. On the right, we see this Lala Cocoa flavored milk with added protein, which is actually a great example of the blurring boundaries between sports and dairy drinks. So dairy protein-based sports nutrition made more accessible to the mainstream consumer is one of the key segments identified for further clean label innovation. And as I mentioned before, it's consumer expectations that are driving the clean label trend and thereby pushing manufacturers to innovate and reformulate. We have 2 in 3 global consumers saying they specifically want to avoid products with ingredients that are difficult to understand, meaning that most consumers have a taste for simple ingredient lists. And the dairy products on the right are 2 very interesting examples spotted within the growing range of clean label dairy offerings. The Siggy's Kids product states on pack that it contains 30% fewer ingredients than leading kids yogurt. And clean label claims include all natural, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial sweeteners, no gelatin, no artificial colorings, no juice or concentrates, no preservatives, and so on. And the other dairy product from the Paul Subbeke brand is a mild yogurt that is certified organic with a 0% flavoring and starch claim being featured front of pack. So finding solutions to create clean label applications is crucial to addressing this rising consumer demand, and it will be very interesting to explore how the food and beverage industry stays ahead of the clean label trend, considering also its evolution over the years. So the next section of this presentation will dive deeper into dairy proteins in relation to the clean label trend. So thank you for joining me on these market insights, and I'll now hand over to Anne-Charlotte.
Thank you, Mirte. So now just a little focus on a clean label concept. Today's consumers aren't just consumers, but also active citizens with increasingly complex demands and expectations. They want pleasure and health, but also naturalness and authenticity, and they are paying ever closer attention to the ingredients in the products they buy. This is how the clean label trend emerged. From the consumer point of view, calling a product clean label is a sign of naturalness, health, and transparency in the production process. It should be noted, however, that the concept of clean label is not clearly defined, either from the regulatory point of view or the scientific one. This is why manufacturers have to be inventive to validate the clean label concept. There are a few possible strategies here. They can highlight naturalness by using regulated claims, such as free-from or without. They can use positive messaging to explain the benefits of clean label, both for well-being and the environment. Or they can embrace supply chain transparency and use authentic manufacturing processes. Really, the best way for food producers to gain the trust of consumers is to be honest with them. That means focusing on positive and sincere communication in combination with regulated claims. So as we just saw, clean label is a generic industry term used in the context of both product reformulation and communication. To establish a product as clean label, several steps can be taken. In order to promote the naturalness of the product, one strategy is to define a list of well-known ingredients. It's often said that the clean label product is formulated with ingredients that can be found in the consumer's kitchen cabinets. Going beyond simply substituting artificial additives or removing controversial ingredients, clean label aims to bring transparency, that's the clear label, and authenticity to enable manufacturers to reassure consumers and win the trust. The product resulting from this approach will be much better suited to the need of consumers in search of authenticity. Apart from the product itself, there are other aspects of an enterprise that can be part of clean label approach, such as using production processes that respect the integrity of the product. More broadly, a company that takes clear steps to protect the environment is better able to claim a clean label approach. In conclusion, clean label is not a trend, but a new way of consuming. And consumers are increasingly aware of the impact of their diet of both their health and the environment. For example, 3 out of 4 people think that artificial additives are bad for health, and almost 1 in 2 associate clean label with products that are free from artificial ingredients. Now, just a little focus on who we are. Eurial I&N is a part of Eurial, a French agricultural and agri-food cooperative, which supports its farmer members every day to promote and sell their products. Committing to outperforming and responsible farming, Eurial offers consumers traceability and healthy, safe, and tasty food. Together, Eurial's 12,500 farmer members and 22,000 employees embody the company's value: long-termism, localism, traceability, and sustainability. At the milk division of Eurial Cooperative Group, Eurial collects traditional and organically farmed cows and goats' milk. There are processes into dairy products and specialty ingredients. Driven by its cooperative value and ethical principles, Eurial has invested significantly in sustainable agriculture and responsible food. Eurial I&N is a B2B specialty ingredients division of Eurial. Only based in France, our main goal is to meet our consumers' needs and support them in their product development with our dedicated application lab. We do so by providing nutritional and functional solutions to food, health, and nutrition industries. So now, Pauline will focus the rest of the webinar on our clean label solution for the substitution of texture additives in dairy applications.
Thank you, Anne-Charlotte. Hi, everyone. So in this talk, we are going to explain why and how dairy proteins can be your key to clean label. In the first part of this talk, I will explain that our dairy proteins are natural, extracted from a clean process, and highly functional. In the second part of the presentation, I will present 4 application concepts, demonstrating that it's possible to remove some additives from your ingredients list and replace them with our dairy protein solutions. Now, let's talk about our milk proteins. Our milk proteins are natural ingredients. They are labeled as such with no E number. As you can see in this graph, dairy proteins represent 3.4% of the composition of milk. There are 2 types of protein in milk, casein and whey protein. Casein represents 80% of total protein in milk, and whey protein 20%. These 2 types of protein have different functionalities and behave differently depending on the food system, pH, and heat treatment. Now, let's have a look at the process. Our dairy proteins are extracted using a clean process and are fully traceable. We have an excellent control of our supply chain. We manage the milk of our 4,500 farmers, all situated in the west part of France, where our factories are located. As you can see in this slide, we use clean processes, only based on membrane separation and then drying. Casein and whey protein can be extracted from milk or whey, either together or separately. Based on these different pathways, we've got different types of dairy proteins. The 2 first ones, native milk protein and native whey protein, are directly extracted from milk and contain 80% protein. The 2 other ingredients on the second part of the graph are extracted from whey. We have 2 types of whey ingredients here, depending on the protein concentration. Whey protein concentrate that contains 80% protein, and whey protein isolate containing 90% protein. I am very excited here today to let you know that we are going to launch our whey protein isolate very soon. All right, so we've seen that our dairy proteins are natural and from a clean process. Now, let's concentrate on their functionalities. Thanks to their unique composition, our dairy proteins are highly functional and have multiple functionalities. They have the ability to provide properties close to some additives, such as gelling and water binding, texturizing, emulsifying, and foaming properties. They can help achieve clean label status in many products and in many ways. For example, they can help reduce the use of stabilizers like gums, thickeners like modified starch, gelling agents such as gelatin, or emulsifiers like E-number 471. Now, the question is, how is this possible? Our proteins can interact with other proteins or with other components in the food system, such as carbohydrates, fats, and minerals. Changes in protein structure and protein-protein interaction contribute to textural and functional properties in the final product. Our team in our application center has carried out multiple tests to characterize and confirm the exceptional functionality of our dairy proteins, comparing their performance to additives. Based on this specific knowledge, we have created solutions to replace additives in different applications. In the next slide, I will present the solutions we have developed for our applications. Some of the solutions are already used by our customers. All right, now I'm going to present 4 successful clean label applications we developed in our R&D center. In these applications, we managed to remove the additives from the ingredients list. The first example on your left is a typical stirred yogurt with 0% fat from the US market. In this example, you will see that we managed to replace the modified starch and the gelatin with an Eurial solution. The second example is a high-protein milkshake for sport nutrition that you can find in the European market. In this example, we managed to remove the stabilizers and still have a nice and smooth, ready-to-drink beverage. The third example is a chilled drinking yogurt, the Chinese market. In this example, we have removed the starch and the guar gum without compromising on the texture. The last example is a chocolate mousse for the French market. In this dessert, our goal was to replace the emulsifier E471 with our dairy protein solution. So, our first application is a stirred yogurt, 0% fat with vanilla flavor. You know, the clean label trend is an important trend in the yogurt market, with consumers wanting hydrocolloids, stabilizers, or thickeners to be removed from the ingredients list. However, removing hydrocolloids from food systems, especially yogurt, can mean compromising our viscosity and water holding capacity. On the left part of this slide is a typical US yogurt. It contains modified starch and gelatin. On the right side is our solution. We managed to develop a fat-free yogurt free from gelatin and modified starch thanks to our solution called Eurial 50. This solution has high texturizing ability. With only 2.5% incorporation into your milk, you can reach the same viscosity as a typical US market sample containing modified starch and gelatin. You can see on the right part of this graph that the yogurt made with Eurial 50 has the same viscosity as the market sample. Eurial brings texture and also gives your clean label yogurt a pleasant, creamy texture with no off note and an excellent water retention. The second application is a high-protein milkshake. This type of beverage is common in sport nutrition with 25 grams of protein per portion, meaning 7.5% protein. It's also a UHT product, which can be stored at ambient temperatures. Sport consumers are more and more reading labels, and many sport nutrition brands are responding by providing on-pack information about the source of ingredients, as well as seeking to include more natural ingredients. In our Eurial application, on the right part of this slide, we have replaced the stabilizers present in the market sample with a solution called Eurial 8010. Eurial 8010 contains 80% protein. The proteins are native and very functional. In this recipe, we added 6% of this dairy solution into the skim milk. This solution delivers enough protein to reach a high level of protein in the beverage and also replaces stabilizers such as cellulose gum and carrageenan. In our lab, we developed 2 milkshakes. One milkshake made with Eurial I&N, number 2 on this slide, and one with standard dairy proteins and no stabilizers, number 1 on this slide. These 2 beverages were compared to the market sample, number 3 here. The 3 beverages had the same level of protein, 25 grams per portion, 7.5% protein. If you look at the bottles, our clean label recipe, the number 2 here with Eurial I&N, doesn't show any sedimentation over time. The sample one that contains standard protein and no stabilizers shows some cocoa sedimentation. Now, let's have a look at the viscosity graph. You can see that the Eurial clean label concept has the same viscosity as the market sample. The viscosity is enough to provide a pleasant mouthfeel and to keep the cocoa particles in suspension. It's also important to know that our solution is stable through the UHT treatment. We can say here we have successfully managed to replace the stabilizers while guaranteeing the right viscosity of the product. Let's move to another application very common in China, a chilled drinking yogurt, in which viscosity is reduced to create a pourable product. In our application, we have replaced the starch and gelatin additives present in the market sample with a solution called Cerigel, which is a whey protein. It's an efficient water binder. It provides stability and smoothness without compromising on taste. As you can see on this graph, by adding 2.5% of Cerigel to the milk, we managed to reach the same level of viscosity as the market sample. Our Cerigel solution has amazing water binding and gelling properties. This ingredient is very useful when developing a clean label yogurt. It's an excellent natural texturizer and stabilizer when tailoring the texture of drinking yogurt. Our last application is a chocolate mousse. Our goal here is to replace the emulsifier E471, which many manufacturers are trying to remove in France. The role of the emulsifier is to stabilize the water-oil interface after the homogenization of the mix. Dairy proteins, in particular casein and whey proteins, play a decisive role and contribute to the stability of the emulsion. Our solution here is a combination of 2 ingredients, Eurial 60.1 and Eurial 80 NS. On one side, we have a protein that emulsifies, Eurial 60.1, and on the other side, Eurial 80 NS adds viscosity to the milk. It's a great combination to guarantee a high quality of foam and a good stability of the mousse. All right, everyone, this was our last slide. Our presentation is now over. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I will hand over to Elizabeth to start the Q&A session.
Thank you, ladies, for this great presentation. This is Elizabeth Green once again from Food Ingredients First, and I'll now host a Q&A session with our listeners and speakers. Some great questions have been sent in so far, so thank you. The first question to get us started is from one of our listeners and highlights clear label. The question is, are there any clear label protocols, and is this something which is under development? And Charlotte, maybe you'd like to answer this first question.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. It's an interesting question. For the moment, the concepts of clean and clear label are not defined in regulation. Some countries, such as Belgium, have tried to clarify this concept, but without reaching any solution for the moment. So each company can therefore have its own definition of clean and clear label and set up its own protocols. For example, at Eurial I&N, we work hard to be part of a sustainable agriculture process to guarantee maximum traceability and to be transparent about our industrial processes.
Okay, Anne-Charlotte, thank you very much. On to our next question now, which is from one of our listeners, is from which point can we consider a dairy high-protein reference as a nutritional health benefit, and how can we discover innovations that are purely marketing but not beneficial for the consumer? Pauline, maybe you'd like to take on this question.
Yes, thank you. That's a very interesting question. So Eurial proteins have very specific functionalities. And as you have hopefully seen during this webinar, in the case of the Claimable, we replace ingredients without nutritional value with functional and nutritional ones. So replacing additives with dairy proteins, it's not just about having a Claimable marketing message. It's also about improving the nutritional value of your finished product so you can offer a real benefit to consumers. Now, in the case of a high protein finished product, we've got very good solutions that can also be used to enrich food systems like custard, beverages. For example, in our lab, we have developed a high protein dessert with 10% protein with our Eurial 60.1 solution. With this solution, the product stays smooth and creamy, even at a high protein level. And with this level of protein, you can make a rich in protein claim in Europe.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. That's great. Another one of our listeners would like to ask about the comparison between dairy protein and plant protein. And Charlotte, maybe that's a good question for you to answer.
Yeah. Alternative proteins, it's an important subject in terms of food challenges facing the world. Eurial I&N is a part of Eurial Cooperative Group, and at Eurial we have 4 production sectors, including cereals and fruit and vegetables. So due to the story and the know-how of Eurial Cooperative Group, we can offer a lot of expertise in the nutritional features and functional properties of plant ingredients and plant protein, as well as dairy protein. But Myrtle, maybe, do you have a global view of this comparison?
Sure. Well, I think that from a market insights perspective, there's a lot to say about both dairy and plant protein. I already mentioned during the webinar that with the rise of plant protein, the demand for dairy protein is not at risk of collapsing, especially in the sports nutrition sector. But we also see a fast-growing market for plant proteins in all regions, with Europe as the leading region for products with plant protein and plant protein claims. And we definitely also see growing diversity in plant protein applications. So we see ranges from established sources like soy, wheat, and pea, to more emerging sources like fava beans, we saw rice, and you should also watch out for water lentils, I think. And this is all part of Innova's market research. So if you're interested in trends relating to plant or dairy proteins, just reach out to Innova Market Insights to see how we can support. And I just noticed I said plant or dairy proteins, but an even more interesting development to mention here is the growing consumer interest in dairy and plant protein blends. So blends, this is definitely a trend to watch out for, as it has the potential to enable the best in terms of nutritional profile, but also texture or mouthfeel, for example.
That's great, ladies. Thank you for the very interesting insights. Now on to our next question from a listener who says, we have seen your work on dairy products during this presentation. What are the other types of applications that you are working on? Pauline, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, of course. That's a great question. Thank you. So our main goal is to meet our customers' expectations. So the focus of this webinar today was on dairy applications, as sustainable trend is an important trend in this market. But of course, we are working on some other applications and other industry segments. And our application lab is doing research in areas like sauces, ready meals, snacks, bakery, and also cakes. So for example, we've tested different clean label solutions to replace stabilizers in mayonnaise or bechamel sauce. In the bakery sector, we looked at ways to remove additives, to maintain a good texture through a shelf life of the bakery good. We also have solutions to fully replace eggs in cakes. So that's all the different part of application we are working on at this moment. So we are willing to answer different questions on these applications as well.
Thank you, Pauline. That's very insightful. Now, another question from a listener is, what are the different kinds of organizations overseeing Clean Label from a regulatory perspective? Are there plans to consolidate these labels in the EU, for example, or is it country specific? So, Anne-Charlotte, I'd like to put forward that question to you.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in regulation, but as we saw during this webinar, the term clean label is difficult to understand because no regulatory definition exists. And for the moment, no is currently envisaged. So it's up to each company to communicate its approach and its benefits for customers, while also, of course, complying with labeling standards and regulation.
Okay, fantastic. Very interesting indeed. Now, this next question, I believe it would be good to get some insights on from Mirta. And the question is, where do you see the most countries requiring clean label? Is it European-centered? So, Mirta, over to you.
Okay. Well, from a consumer insights perspective, I think it's important to remember here that the definition of clean label is not 100% consistent, meaning that it can mean many things to different consumers. So to really explore where we see the most countries requiring clean label, we have to take a look at consumer perception of the term clean label and then compare it between countries. So this is actually one of the many questions that we ask consumers in one of our surveys. When do you consider a food or beverage product to be clean label? And in France, clean label is often associated, for example, with natural claims and no additives or preservatives. Well, I remember from the survey that for Mexico, raw claims also came to the fore. So I think this really illustrates the challenges and the country differences of the clean label definition, especially as the term clean label is not used by consumers themselves.
That's great, Mirta. Thank you very much. Now, I think we have time for one or two more questions. So I have another question here for Pauline from a listener, which is clean label food more nutritious?
Yes, thank you for this question. So I will say yes. Clean label means more transparency on your label and less artificial ingredients. Our protein solution can help you substitute pasteurizer ingredients and also increase your protein content. I will say around 2 to 3%. So the addition of protein into this recipe will definitely improve the nutritional status of your finished product. So it's a yes.
That's great, Pauline. Thank you. Now, our last question is for Mirta, which relates to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is obviously a hot topic right now. So, Mirta, what impact does the COVID-19 situation have on consumer demand for clean label?
That's a very hot topic indeed. Interesting question. Well, if we assume that clean label means more transparency on your label and fewer artificial ingredients, like previously mentioned by Pauline, we can definitely see COVID-19 having a strong impact on consumer demand for transparency. So before COVID-19, we continued to see huge consumer interest in brands backed by unique stories that stand out and communicate its business's best practices in nutrition, in sustainable sourcing, employee treatment, and so on. And you've maybe already heard of it, as Innova's #1 top 10 trend for 2021 reveals whichever food and beverage sector you're in, transparency will triumph. And I think that the current COVID-19 climate places even more emphasis on this trend and how consumers are increasingly searching for brands that can build trust, provide authentic and credible products, and create shopper confidence. So this, again, this highlights the importance of consumer trust within the whole clean label trend.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, Mirta, and Charlotte and Pauline for the great presentation and your insights from the Q&A session. So that concludes today's session and presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in to the webinar brought to you by Eurial and with analysis from Innova Market Insights. Before we sign off, I'd like to let you know that all questions that we didn't have time to answer today will be answered by email. You can also check your inbox for an on-demand version, which will be sent out shortly. Finally, you can keep up with the latest developments in industry news at foodingredientsfirst.com, where you can also sign up to our newsletters.